Thanks again for joining us on another episode of Monsta MTV, episode 17, and today we're going to talk about how to repair grout in your shower. And I'm sure many of you know how annoying grout can be, particularly if it's discoloured or it's aged, or in the worst case scenario where it's cracked and you just can't repair it. So how are you going to fix that? So basically the most important piece is you've got to remove it first, and you're going to need a few good things to get on hand before you do that. However, give the area a good clean first. That's important. Get it a good clean, get all the crap and grime off, and then dry the area. Once you've done that, go down to your hardware store or a tile store and get yourself a grout gouger. Now, some people will tell you you can use an oscillating tool to remove grout in a shower, and an oscillating tool is like a grinder with a grinder disc. Don't use it in your shower, okay? And I'll tell you why. It's very likely in your shower in your bathroom that underneath those tiles is a waterproof membrane. And if you use those tools, you tend to go right into the grout joint below the line of the tile and cut the membrane, and then you're really screwed, okay? So get that right. Don't let anyone tell you, oh, you'll do it quick with an oscillating tool. It might be different if it's outside grout or on the ground floor where there's no wet area, but in a shower alcove, there's a little bit more elbow grease, but one of these tools will do the job. So get that in there, and you're going to have to gouge in that grout and take it out, and after you start to dig in, you'll find the grout will come away and remove all the mass of it as much as you can. When you've done that, you then get yourself some bleach. Not that I particularly say this is the best brand, but get some bleach and mix it 50-50 with water and put it in a pail, and then make sure you do the safe thing when you're handling bleach. Rubber gloves, you might want to put some safety goggles on, and in there, all that grout you removed, give it a wipe over with a sponge into those grout joints with the bleach solution. That will actually kill all the spores of any mould. You might think you've removed the mould, but mould will have spores in it, and sometimes it's gone deep into those grout joints, and if you don't kill it off, you'll do a great job of replacing the grout and you'll find mould will come back. So now's the time while you've cleared those joints, get the mould cleaner in there, get the bleach in there, and that'll kill that, and you've got that piece taken care of. Now, choice of grout, very, very important step. How do you select your grout? Well, look, don't fall for the crap that you might be sold in a store or what you read. This is not, you're in a shower now. This is a very, very testing environment. Most of you will be using these areas every day of the week, and sometimes 2 or 3 times in a day in some households. So you need to get a good quality grout. Pre-mixed grouts don't work in shower alcoves or bathrooms. So, and when I say they don't work, they might work and look good, but they won't last the test of time. So put them aside, and you've got to find yourself a powdered grout that has really good water resistance, okay? And powdered grouts have all got a bit of cement in them. And you need to select the grout that has got, and there are different brands, so do your homework. A grout that's got good anti-shrink properties is one, anti-mold or antibacterial properties. There are some of them out there that offer that, and they will also help handle those conditions a lot better. And also there are things like grouts that will say they're anti-shrink, okay, so they've got a bit more flexibility to them, because many of your tiles in a bathroom, particularly with hot and cold environments because of the shower, you'll get a little bit of tile movement or the phenomenon of tile growth, and having anti-shrink properties in your grout will definitely help and prevent that cracking later on, that micro cracking that happens. So you've selected your grout type, which is powder. You've selected the brand that's going to suit your need. Then you need to determine the grout, the width of your grout joints. Okay, so there are the smooth grouts and there's the coarser grouts. The smooth grouts are normally for joints that are 1 to 8 mil, and many brands out there offer that, and there's just either a fine sand or no sand in it. Whereas the coarser grouts are for wider joints. You'll probably find for most shower alcoves, particularly with wall tiles, they'll be for the finer joints, but just double check that, make sure you've got the right type of grout for your bathroom, and with all those properties I mentioned earlier. Once you've done that, you're ready to do the job. So how do you grout? Well, there's a couple of things that you need to get hold of. One is a squeegee, and this is a rubber squeegee that I've used before for grouting. I prefer to use this, and also reminds me when I was a kid with my dad on a job, because my dad was a tiler by trade, and he actually used to use these to spread the grout around. But there are the handle ones, and you'll see that in the photo now that you can see, and they might be easy to spread, but this sort of tool does help you push the grout into the joints, particularly in corners or near the wall. So take note of that. These are very, very simple and easy to use. Most tile stores will sell them. You need to get yourself some dry wipes and a really clean sponge, okay? And again, a clean bucket. You mix your grout up as per the instructions, and you get to a nice consistency. And that grout, when you mix it up, it'll be a nice smooth paste type consistency once you mix it. When you mix it, mix enough that you're going to use within an hour. So in a bucket like this sort of size, if I'm doing an average shower alcove, which could be 4 to 5 square metres, I'm going to only mix maybe half a pail, and then it's always easy to remix and use it. Don't mix too much up and have it go off, okay? Follow the instructions, but when you've mixed it, you let it settle for about 3 or 4 minutes and then give it a re-stir. The reason is, as I said earlier, all grouts have cement in them, and cement starts to react with water after a few minutes, so let it settle. After a couple of minutes, give it a re-stir, and then get it onto the tiles. Once you start spreading the grout, it's real simple. You've got to spread it all over, push into the joints. You will get it built up on the tiles, don't panic about that. But the most important thing is you might need to give it 2 or 3 times over to get the grout into those grout joints. That's really important. And then get yourself a damp sponge, a clean damp sponge, and make sure there's not too much water in it, and you wipe over the tiles, because your tiles will be glazed in the bathroom, and remove the excess grout off the tile. But you've got to be very, very careful not to take the fresh grout out the joint, okay? But if you can't leave the grout too long on the tile, otherwise it'll be virtually impossible to remove after a few hours. So this is sort of between 10 minutes to 20 minutes after you've applied it. Start to wipe the grout off with a very, very lightly damp sponge, and that'll take the excess off. And then just check that you haven't damaged any of the grout. If you have, you get your tool back and just sort of patch it up. And once you've done that, let it go. You'll start to see it starting to settle, and then you get a dry wipe, okay? And then you start to give it a real bit of elbow grease and polish off the excess cement film that might be, or the grout film that's on the tile, and take that off. And you'll see that as you work in the tiles, you won't move the grout that you've just freshly laid into the joint. And then you allow that to dry, and you've removed all the excess off the tile. That's key. Make sure you've got your grout in a nice smooth area. If you've got any excess grout or bulging grout, this is the time to patch that up as well. And then most grouts will tell you that after 24 to 48 hours you're able to use your shower. However, if you're doing the whole job of re-grouting, many of you will probably are likely also to re-silicon. Now, you do not use grout in the wall-floor junction or the wall-to-wall junction of your shower. So make sure that joint is left clean. If you had grout in there before, whoever did your grout job before didn't do it properly. So you leave that joint free, and you need to read the instructions, because when you're putting a silicone in that joint, particularly if you're going with white colours or even translucent silicons, if you go too fresh near the grout, it could discolour it. Okay, now it shouldn't come in contact, but you might have a horizontal joint coming close to the vertical joint of silicon, or likewise along the wall floor junction and the grout that's gone on the wall. Be careful of that, okay? So make sure you read the instructions, because you may need to wait 48 hours before you can silicon those joints. Once you've done all that, give your shower alcove a good seal, okay? Use a sealer, a grout sealer. That will prevent you having to come back to it again too soon, and also will help maintain that mould and grind problem inside your shower alcove. Once you've done that, you should find that your shower alcove and your bathroom looks almost brand new. New grout job, crack-free, anti-shrink, anti-mould, and you're ready to go. If you have any more questions on how to grout your bathroom or your shower alcove, please get on to us. You can give our Monsta crew a call or drop us a line. And if you like this, you can pass it on, share it on, or just subscribe, which is down there somewhere on our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining me on this episode of Monsta MTV. We'll see you in episode 8.